Why do you want them to listen to your podcast?
So that when they think about starting a business, they've got the content that is pointing them in the right direction.
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
The change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
We're not actually going to publish this first bit. We just want to make sure that there's not a huge amount of buffering in the recording first.
Yeah, sure.
It looks like your video's reasonable. The quality stayed good. I just wasn't sure 100% whether it was freezing, but it looks okay.
How is it when I'm moving?
Maybe.
I'm moving my head back and forth now.
It's all right. It definitely froze intermittently, so we'll see how we go.
Would it be better on a phone?
No, it's usually better on a computer. Given that your computer's quite old, it might be an issue, but what's your internet speed like? Because it's not complaining about that.
I'm on 5G here. I get like really good speeds.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be an internet related thing. I dare say it's more, my laptop.
Let's just see how we go. If it's presenting a massive issue, then we'll reconsider that. But I think it's better to just give it a shot.
Sure.
I have had problems with devices before, but usually the problems come from phones, not from computers.
Yeah, okay.
There was one guy whose computer was so old that his browser, like he couldn't get the most recent version of the browser on there, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, I just had to download Chrome because I use Firefox, and that's not supported.
Yes,
so.
Chrome is the preferred browser. I think it'll handle Microsoft Edge, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've always used Firefox because Chrome used heaps of RAM.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Fair enough.
So that's what I switched over.
There you go. So I used to care about all that sort of stuff, and more recently I'd say, nah, that's somebody else's problem.
Oh, like I use a 10, 12-year-old laptop. I don't really care. Just...
Yeah. Well, you actually need to care more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you're comfortable, we might as well make a start.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, so before I do the intro, your name is Jared, right?
Yes.
JR. What's your last name?
Rout. ROUT.
I have seen it somewhere, but it's like good. So yeah, that'd be handy to make an intro that sounds like I know who I'm talking to.
Just make sure you don't say Jared Rout or Jared Rout.
Jared from the North Shore. All good. Okay, well, let's make a start then.
Cool.
Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right Standards go the distance, saving you time and money, season after season. Hey, welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars. Today we've got Jared Rout in the dungeon. How you doing?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Been a big day. I've just got off the ZK doing some overgrown grass that was in a really boggy area, and I found some of that area is still boggy.
I was doing a bit of that yesterday, just on the 19-inch push mower, actually.
Yeah. I didn't get bogged.
Bit of fun.
But on the slope, it spun the wheels once, and then a couple of low-lying areas, it just left big black marks. I was like, whoops.
Not fun.
It's great fun, actually, but yeah, it's not not ideal.
Oh, it's fun to play in the mud, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes, huge amount of fun. So, Jared, we want to give people a bit of an introduction. So, you are in Sydney, fellow New South Welshman, and you look like you're younger than me. I'm guessing you're probably a little bit older than my kids, but maybe not much.
Yeah, you're correct. I'm 27.
Yeah. Yep. So my stepson's very close to your age.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Oh, I think he is 26. I'm just trying to think if he's 26 now or after his birthday in November. But anyway.
It's funny, a lot of the guys that I talk to in this industry, they're a little bit older than me, and then they've got children that are just a little bit younger than me. It's funny.
Yeah, well, I'm 48 now. Oh, I just had my birthday last month.
I say a little bit older than me just to make them feel better because, 48 and 27, there's a bit of a gap.
21 years older than you. Lovely. So I think we share something in common, though. I'm reluctant to talk about motorbikes these days, but you have a bit of a love for motorbikes, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I like all things old, and I like older motorbikes.
Awesome.
Anything with a little bit of style to it. I've got a 1984 Yamaha XT250T.
XT250.
And that,
nice.
Yeah, so that is if you think of the Rambo bike that he rides in First Blood, that's not that bike.
Okay.
But everybody thinks it is that bike.
Right.
It's the twin cam version of that. So they based it off the TT 300 or the TT 350 or something like that.
The Rambo one.
And then my XT 250.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bit. It looks a bit. The engine looks a bit sort of more similar to your modern YZ sort of builds.
I know. Back in the day, I thought the TTR was the bomb.
The bomb as in good, or the bomb as in it's a bomb?
For Yamaha, good.
Yeah, the TT, I think, is the off-road version of the XT.
So the XT is more agricultural.
I hate it when people say that. It's not an ag bike. It doesn't have that silly little flap at the end.
You can do that though. You can put the hay bale holder on the back.
Yeah. I've got all the bells and whistles for it. It's fully original. I've got the original leather tool holder for it on the back, and the guy I bought it for, did a full nut and bolt restoration.
Wow. Interesting.
Before me, so yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like taking those old bikes, stripping them down and turning them into cafe races.
Yeah, they do. I don't really like that too much. I've sort of thought about doing that myself, but time and money and yada yada yada, not really my thing. But I like keeping mine original, and I'd say that going back to what its use is, it's more of an enduro, an entry level enduro bike.
Yeah,
I'd say it's got a big tank on it. So yeah.
So back in the day, they're road registerable. They're made to be able to do a bit of everything.
Yeah. Yep.
So large tank, but it would be a metal tank, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yep. Which means if you're enduro riding and you drop it, yeah, potentially.
Oh, look, I've taken it around the local Sussex and Sussex tracks around there, and Bendalong down the south coast.
Nice.
With a bunch of enduro riders. I can't say I kept up with them the whole way, but I got everywhere that they did. Yep. I was spinning my tires on my my half road, half off-road tires. Didn't even have knobbies on.
Yeah.
It's good fun. I'll have a go at anything on anything.
I went from, as a kid, riding unregistered bikes up our backyard. We live on 2.5 acres when I was growing up. And then I bought a DT175, but that dropped off the radar pretty quickly because girls and computers and other stuff come along. And then as an adult, I borrowed my brother's XR400 and I went riding with a group of guys that were enduro riders. So a bunch of them had 4 strokes and 2 strokes, and the 4 strokes were, your lightweight enduro 4 strokes. And I'm riding this XR 400, and it was just like a tractor. I'm going to use that word again, agricultural. By comparison,
I don't mind people calling it a tractor. I love it. I love that.
Yeah, so
it's a
by
tractor,
comparison to a racing bike, it's a tractor. I'm riding through the single tracks on my brother's XR 400, and in some ways it was easier to ride than their race bikes. And that meant going up a snotty hill climb. The suspension had that much, there was lots of plush and just a huge amount of travel. And the engine was all low down torque. So you just planned it in the right direction and just crawled and clawed its way up this snotty hill climb, making all these guys on 2 strokes and lightweight 4 strokes look like they didn't know how to ride.
Because you feel like you're just sitting back on a couch going up a hill.
Exactly. You have 4 inches of padding on the seat on those old things.
Mm.
It was good fun, but then I when I got back into dirt biking a bit more, I got myself a KTM 2-stroke and absolutely love it. But yeah, it's different kettle of fish.
Yeah, well, that old XT just sits in my dad's shed down the south coast, and every time I go down there, I'll kick it over and take it for a little ride, and make sure all the bells and whistles are still firing on it.
Nice. Good stuff. So your dad's living down the south coast and you're in Sydney in the North Shore?
That's correct, yeah. I don't want to get anybody confused. I'm in Sydney, and I grew up down the south coast.
Yep, lovely. So you're a country boy at heart, hence the dirt bikes. And you work in the posh areas in Sydney.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm a bit of a mongrel, but I'm in Neutral Bay, based in Neutral Bay myself, and sort of just work around the posher areas.
Yeah. So for people who don't know Sydney, you've got the CBD, you've got the beaches down around the CBD. So Bondi Beach and Manly is on the North Shore. I'm just trying to think, what's the other one on down below Bondi when you're heading south? What do you get to down there? Balmain, is it? I think
Maroubra, something like that. I'm that far detached from that side of Sydney. I'd have just as much of an idea as you, mate.
I think we're on the right track. So if you hit Manly Beach, that's on the northern side of the harbour, and from Manly up the beaches and back up to Hornsby is all considered North Shore Sydney. Yeah,
but I would say I'm mainly based lower North Shore, so I'll go from like Chatswood to Manly sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll do a little bit of work a bit further north like that, like Turramurra. Getting up to close to Hornsby sort of area. But
got a couple of friends that live around the Turramurra area. One in Turramurra, and I think another one just north of Hornsby. But it's a nice spot down there. So you'd get a mix of body corporate work, residential work. Do you do a lot of commercial stuff as well? Or?
No, I do mostly residential. I've got a few stratas, but it's generally just a couple lawns, couple hedges, really simple stuff that doesn't need too much attention paid to it day to day. But most of my businesses, I'd say, is working with residential clients and that end of stuff.
Yeah, okay. So an average residential property in those areas is going to be worth a couple of mil, maybe starting point.
Yeah, that's low end, very low end on the starting point around here.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I meant. Starting point. Like if you can get something for 2 mil, you're doing well.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'd be a very small apartment.
Yeah. So if you're talking homeowners there, they've got a reasonably expensive property. If you're talking renters, they're paying, I'm going to guess, upwards of $1,000 a week.
Yeah, so we're floating around that. I live in Neutral Bay myself, so close to I'm in the suburbs that I'm working in, and it is definitely very expensive to live here. Yes.
So if you're a single lad, you probably got a couple of flatmates to share the expense, and if you're a married person, and you don't want to be having kids too soon because it's a costly expense.
Yeah, kids are definitely definitely not on the way. I'm partnered, and that definitely does. It's one of the reasons why I'm able to base myself here is that we're able to share that expense. Otherwise, it definitely wouldn't be as easy.
Yeah. Well,
as it is.
my area, you're talking sort of $700 a week rent, and I'm Lake Macquarie area.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's a
Well, that's
big difference.
I'm not gonna tell everybody what we pay rent a week, but that makes me feel sort of better about what we're paying.
No, that's good. I'm Gary Ashton, and I'm here to help business owners succeed and enjoy being in business. Does running your business feel chaotic? Maybe you started it for freedom, to live the life you wanted, but now you're stuck in the grind, overwhelmed and exhausted. The stress doesn't stop. You work harder, but nothing really changes. Get real support at Think Tank Coaching. Get crystal clear on future goals, your ideal customers, and the numbers to focus on that will move your business forward. If you're ready to make a change, let's talk. Book your free strategy session now at thinktankcoaching.com.au. Yeah, so fortunately I own my own home, or the bank owns some of it still, but yeah, instead of paying rent, pay the mortgage.
Yeah, that's a better position to be in any case.
Well, at my age, I don't want to be paying rent. I mean,
No.
Anyway, regardless, age is only one of the factors, but yeah. So, Neutral Bay, is that, I'm just trying to think, is that on the harbour or is that back up coming back off the Hawkesbury or somewhere in the...
No, so we're on the harbour.
Yep.
Yeah, like 5-minute drive down where at the Neutral Bay. And yeah, pretty close to the water.
Yeah. So I know if you go up north in the north and North Shore suburbs, some of them are backing onto the Hawkesbury or some of the waters up north.
Yeah, no, it's nowhere
No,
sort of
but
near where I am.
you would have a prime view of the fireworks on New Year's Eve almost.
Yeah, I've got it's Vivid at the moment,
Yeah.
and they're running light shows and fireworks pretty much every night. So I'm sitting there playing Xbox of a night and looking out my window, and there's fireworks going.
It sounds like I should have come down and visited you to do this interview.
Oh, mate, we're not living in a luxury penthouse. I can tell you that. It's a shitty old flat.
No, but we could
But,
sit on the foreshore at the harbour and record down there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That's a couple of beers.
Yeah, it's a nice spot you're in. So, but that would be a problem for you running a business. When you go to leave home in the morning, you probably try and get out before the traffic gets busy.
No.
No.
So I basically like that. Yeah, that does come into it, but like I'm working a 2-minute drive away from my house most of the time. So like I'm going over to Mossman, the next suburb over, or like I'll structure my day so the day starts where I'm doing a job that's close to home. That way I can just work through the traffic.
Okay. Yep.
And then I'll just schedule something else later that's a bit further away. That's working against the traffic, that type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So your route structuring is certainly affected by traffic.
Yeah, but I'd say it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I just know I've been through some of those areas and the traffic just becomes a car park at some stages.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So like I live on the south side of Military Road, and the whole of Mossman and the whole of Neutral Bay is pretty much comprised on the south side of Military Road, which is your main arterial road that will take you to the northern beaches. So
Yep.
if I don't have to cross that road in the morning, I'm sweet. So I'll try and do any work that I've got on that south side in the mornings, and then do the rest of the work later in the day anywhere else, because I'm working against the against the main flow of the traffic. So
yeah, it'd be interesting to know if you use Sortscape whether it actually recognises traffic flow issues.
Yeah, I mean, I hear about it a lot on your podcast, but because I I've never really sort of looked into it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, why don't we give people a little bit of history in your business? So you mentioned you're 27.
Mm-hmm.
That means you've been finished school for almost 10 years.
Yep.
Did you go straight into gardening or horticulture, lawn care, sports turf?
No. I was a bit of a, like I said, I was a bit of a mongrel, and sort of tried my best not to have a job at some point.
Okay.
And then, went through a stage in my life where I realized, yeah, you're probably gonna have to get a job and do some proper work,
Yeah, fair enough.
catch up to your peers. And so I did a few different things down there. I worked on a dairy farm. That was great fun, riding motorbikes around, herding cattle, and really rewarding job mentally, but physically taxing.
Yeah.
Early mornings, yada yada.
Yep.
Did a bit of roofing, did a bit of like lawn mowing, soft landscaping, just for mates' dads and stuff.
Yeah.
Labouring, that type of thing, but never really followed it up as a job or in any seriousness. But a few years ago, moved up to Sydney with my partner here just for a change because life, we needed change.
Yep.
And I got a job with a vertical garden company called Junglify.
Oh yeah.
So they were doing lots of different places all around Sydney, CBD.
Yeah.
Lots of vertical walls inside office buildings.
Yep.
Some outdoor stuff in public spaces.
Yep.
The public spaces were really cool to work on because people would really appreciate what you were doing, and they'd smile at you as you're just out there working and go, oh wow, this is so cool, blah blah blah. If anybody wants to look it up, it is pretty cool, the stuff that they do. But
they've got a vertical wall where I'm doing my major contract.
Yeah, okay,
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool stuff, but it's big business, horticulture and landscaping.
Yes.
And the way that I left the company probably wasn't the best.
Yeah.
But they were not suiting my needs at the end. They tried to shoot me up through the ranks without giving me a pay rise, essentially.
That's always a smart move for a boss.
Said, like I know I don't have the experience, but you can't just expect me to take on all of this responsibility and only have a ute and a phone as my reward.
Yes. Yeah, getting paid $20 an hour, and
yeah, I left that pretty quick and worked for a couple other gardening companies around Sydney. Yeah. And I had a van at the time, still do, but it was empty, and I was driving that empty van to, the warehouse of this landscaping company every morning, and thinking to myself, oh, why don't I just fill it with tools and do this myself?
A van's a great way to run, and particularly in Sydney, you find towing a trailer in the traffic would be a nightmare.
Absolutely, yeah. I only tow a trailer when I'm doing a big garden cleanup and using it for green waste, and other than that, it's sitting on the street being used as a skip bin.
Yeah, the parking would be worse than the actual traffic that you have to deal with in Neutral Bay.
Yeah, definitely. Parking is still a nightmare anywhere in Sydney.
Have you ended up double parking on a job?
No, I've gotten tickets for parking in the reverse direction of traffic just because there's a park there, where my job is.
And so the cops did not like
that. They're pretty onto it. Like it's not the cops, it's the local council rangers. They're pretty onto it around here.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, I just don't really take any chances. Like if I've got one job that's really hard for me to get parking down at Cremorne Point, and if I can't get a park there, within a few hundred meters, I just reschedule it. It's the client's pretty easy going. They let me come and go pretty much at my own leisure.
That's good. But the parking's not.
The parking's not. It's but it's good to be able to have that flexibility.
So does that include mowing, or is that more gardening?
That's mowing and gardening. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Imagine if you're in the area regularly, then it's not a problem, right? And it sounds like your
This
route density is pretty good.
when guys talk about route density, I wouldn't say I've ever like nutted it out and gone, you know, X is here and X is here, and how long does it take me to do this?
But what I would say,
I just don't try and pick up jobs any further than I'll be in a lot of traffic at the end of the day for. That's it.
See, in my area, I'm not in Sydney, so the traffic's not a problem. But I've said to people 2 postcodes, and I'm not doing residential work anymore. But at that time, 2 postcodes, and that meant that if I went to the furthest job within those 2 postcodes, it was about a 20-minute drive from home, and I hated doing that job. So most of the jobs were 5 to 10 minutes from home, maybe 15, but 5 to 10 minutes from home was pretty normal, and meant that route density was a matter of driving, 1 or 2 minutes in between jobs, or you'd organise all your jobs in a few streets for each day. And that way, within those 2 postcodes, if you did have to change your route, like you're saying with that one customer, you could fit it in the next day and it's not out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, like this customer is literally down the street from me. Like, it takes me a minute to drive there.
So I'd be cursing if I had all my jobs lined up for one day in one street and I had to go the next street over to do one job.
Yeah.
But other people will drive all over Sydney, or they'll be like, I'm in Western Sydney today and I'm in Wollongong tomorrow, and then I'm up the North Shore the day after.
I could not do it. Like, it's just me. You know, I was raised in areas where there wasn't traffic like there is in Sydney, so I just couldn't spend that much time behind the wheel. Like I had a run of jobs I used to do in the eastern suburbs, like on the south side of the bridge, on a Friday, and I ended up just giving that up because I was, hanging out the window, road raging at people.
It would be absolutely bedlam trying to get back across the bridge or through the tunnel.
Yeah, at the times of day when people need you and you're working. So it was heavy, but giving that route up was one of the best things I've done for myself and my mental, health in my business, I suppose. And in another aspect was I put these jobs up on LMCA.
Oh yeah.
And someone responded to me and wanted 1 or 2 of them, and that guy was Emil, the gorilla.
Ah, yes.
So that's how me and him sort of know each other.
The sneaky gorilla.
What's funny is, like when I first started out, I was doing a lot of work on Airtasker, and like Emil won't mind me saying this, is he did a lot of work on Airtasker too, and me and him were smashing it for a season there, and it would either be him winning a job or me winning the job. So I before I knew him, I'd always see this guy winning this job, and I'd be like, oh, this dirty dog, he's won it and I didn't. And when you're in that mindset in the first year or 2 of business, you're really desperate to take on whatever you can.
Yeah.
And then when he messaged me about it, I thought, oh, this is that guy. But he's a really good mate now, and I even consider him sort of in that mentor role. I ask him for a lot of advice, and he's always there for a chat. So
yeah, I consider him a good bloke, and I've had a few chats with him, met up with him down at Diesel Dirt and Turf, and gave him a big squeeze. After inviting Sortscape in to share how their software can help your business, we created a link for you to be able to support Aussie Lawn Stars when you join. Sortscape will save you time and effort with scheduling, quoting and reporting so you can build a more efficient business. Visit sortscape.com/lawnstars now to join, and thank you for your support. At the Skag vendor, mind you. It's like,
yeah, okay.
All things permissible around Skag.
I love him. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, he's great. I got a lot of respect from Emil.
Definitely, me too.
And he's taken on a lot of work around the south side of the Harbour Bridge, right?
Yeah, so he does a lot of the southeastern sort of suburbs. He does a lot of high-end stuff as well. I really look up to his standard of work and the quality of work that he gets into.
He does definitely do a lot of high-end stuff, and one day I might just convince him to get on the podcast, but it's proving hard.
Look, if I'm here, he has to come on now. Like that's a given. I was apprehensive enough to do this, and I'm doing it. So, yeah.
Well,
if I'm doing it, he's got to do it.
Look, this is the beauty of this podcast. We've got a few podcasts in Australia that sort of doing the same thing in the same industry, but my main goal in this podcast is to normalize people in the industry. And you can have all sorts of people, and you're a great example. You're in Sydney. You're doing work on some of the ritziest properties on the North Shore, and you spread yourself across all sorts of properties through there, no doubt. And your quality of work speaks volumes. But where did you start from? From wandering around doing aimless jobs, not knowing where you wanted to go in life, and then you've ended up with a great position. So people need to know that you can choose what you want to do in this industry, and you can make it so that you are doing it really well, or you can be an absolute cowboy. And I'm not going to knock the cowboys. I like that they're in our industry. And
me too. I consider myself a bit of a cowboy sometimes.
Yeah. I've definitely done.
Like I'm not going to step away from being called that. Like, I'm not like some of these other guys that we talk about.
Yeah, but you're swinging with the big boys, and you're doing your quality of work, and your name is getting out there as being professional. It's not like you're getting known as being the guy that will do stuff after 9 p.m. at night while nobody's watching.
Yeah, that's not me. No,
that's a different career, not the one we're talking about. Yeah, so I want to represent all of those guys in the industry, talk about what people do, and look at what they find works for them. And the listeners, people who want to listen to my podcast, get the benefit of learning that there's a multitude of ways you can run a business successfully in our industry.
So, yeah. No, that's why I came on, because I do recognise that I am a use case of that.
You're a great case in point, and the fact that you're doing, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but you're doing reasonably well, and you can afford to pay your rent, so you're doing something all right.
Yeah, that's always been the goal, just pay the rent.
But Emil needs to come on and represent the guerrilla tactics too. He really needs to get in there.
Absolutely, and I wouldn't even call his level of work guerrilla gardening. He gets in there and he does tame some jungles, but he's more than a jungle tamer.
Yeah, well, if I can convince him to come on the podcast, we'll probably showcase some of his Instagram work and draw a bit more attention to it. But anyway, we should talk about you more at the moment, and we'll just leave him in the background till he's ready. So, yeah, you've been in business a few years now. I'm just trying to think when I first saw your name come up on LMCA, but I don't actually remember. So what is it, about 4 or 5 years?
So it'd be 2022. I was officially a business, I think.
Yeah, that's 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a little bit before that, I was doing cashies.
Fair enough. So true cowboy start.
Yeah, definitely true. Oh, you should have seen my setup at the start, mate. It was built of all secondhand equipment, and to be honest, half of my setup still is secondhand equipment. It's great stuff.
That's all right. I started with a single axle brown trailer with a canvas cover over it. Anybody would have think I was hauling pot the way it was covered. It's like, and, it looked like a good cowboy rig. But it was effective.
Yeah.
I made money, and I wasn't selling pot. But we all start from somewhere.
Yep. certainly do.
So I'm guessing that you said you're on a trailer most of the time. You're running out of the van. And I'm going to guess you're doing 5 days a week solid, or are you doing more?
Look, it sort of goes up and down. Some days I'm doing 4. Some days I'm working on the weekends, just trying to catch up when it's shit weather, or I've had some other thing that stopped me from working a day or something.
Okay.
Yeah, like I didn't get into this to be, smashing myself working full time, and like it is a lifestyle, and I did want to, like, when I said before about, there was a part of me that just didn't want to work and tried his hardest not to have a job. Maybe this is that part of me still coming out. Like I don't have a job. I'm self-employed. Like I don't have to answer to anybody but myself and my clients, I suppose. But and that's how I like it.
And on the one side, I can see this, prior to you running the business, you got the empty van, you go surfing and sleep in the back of the van and have almost a hippie style attitude towards life. Don't want to work, want to enjoy life. And people will criticize that. But when you're bringing that to your working life and you're going, you want to find balance in work and having time with your partner, enjoying life, not just focusing on work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I see a lot of value, and I've probably been a bit of a workaholic at some stages, but at this point in my life, I'm like, no, I value my motorbike time, and I value my time with family, and I value going to church. There's all these different things that are outside of work that are more important than work, but it's balance between all of those things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm still, I'm young. I'm still finding that balance, and sometimes the balance can probably be. Sometimes I probably, should be focusing on pushing the business a bit harder and, doing that side of things a bit more. But then, other aspects of my life just pull me the other way, and I'm happy. I'm not, I'm not worried about not working full time if I don't have to.
That's good. So does that mean that
And I'm not ashamed to say that, like that either. Like,
that's cool.
Fine.
And everyone's going to be different, but that's where you find balance in your life. So does that balance allow for you to rip all of the grass and the petrol fumes out of the back of the van and chuck a mattress in there and go to what am I thinking? Go North New South Wales for the weekend? Hang out in Byron Bay?
Nah, like I don't, generally the tools don't come out of the van anymore.
Yeah, the smell's hard to get rid of, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But we do get down the south coast as often as we can and get out of the city for a weekend, and that's what I'm talking about. It's that balance, like
South Coast is the equivalent
to get out of Sydney for a weekend. To get out of Sydney for a weekend, you've almost got to take half of Friday off. So
So how far down the south is your dad?
Mum and Dad, they're in Milton, so that's a little bit further south than Jervis Bay.
Okay,
Nowra, if anybody knows the area.
Yeah,
Nowra's a bit famous for being pretty dodgy.
I've been down there. So you're sort of midway down when you get down to south of Nowra.
Yeah.
Still, you can get a lot further south and a lot colder.
Yeah, for sure. We're pretty mild there. Like once you go further than Bateman's Bay, it starts getting a bit cooler.
Get down to Bega and the cheese factory and all.
Yeah. Like that's the proper, the real South Coast. You can consider us South Coast, but you're 2 hours, 3 hours out of Sydney. It's not that far.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Sydney's the divide in New South Wales. If you're south of Sydney, you're on the south coast. If you're north of Sydney, you're on North New South Wales.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, so I know a few of the contractors down the south coast, and there's some good work down there.
Yeah, I follow a few of them on Instagram. I've like you know, I like to keep up with the type of work that's being done, the quality of work, and it's 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 good to see that like there is a range of different guys down there.
Yeah, there's a few guys around Wollongong that are doing exceptional work, and shout out to Kyle on his massive big girl. But then
Yeah.
there's a guy down Bateman's Bay, John Jakowenko. He's a great contractor.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
one of the guys I've talked to for probably the last 7 or 8 years, even. And there is nothing he doesn't know about our industry. He can give you all the hacks on how to upgrade a Time Master or any other piece of equipment. He knows what's going on. He's good bloke.
Yeah. Okay. Oh well, I might ask him about the Time Master I got down there that needs work.
He'd probably have a spare engine, like one of the Chinese engines you could chuck on it.
Oh, the bloke that owns it had he tried to, I don't know, port the engine or make it super powerful or some shit, and
It's going the opposite direction.
It's rooted now. Yeah, I think he overdid it.
Lovely. Yeah, pull it off.
Yeah.
Put a different engine on there. There you go. So yeah, I think a lot of people wouldn't understand the South Coast from Sydney down to the far corner is a long distance. There's a lot of mileage in there.
Yeah, I mean to Milton it's 200 k's.
Yep,
something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. I looked at riding my road bike down the South Coast when I went down to Tasmania a couple of years ago, and I ended up just going down, stopped just between Goulburn and Canberra, and then went down the highway.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking of going down all the coast roads and then back across to Melbourne, but it ended up looking at it going, that's just too much.
I'd like to do that on a bike. That'd be a great ride, doing the
Yes.
coast road down there. I've done it in a van a couple of times. I used to live down in Melbourne before the 2020 started. So yeah, it's a nice drive.
I would have needed an extra day to do that, all those roads through there, if I was going to do that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about your setup. We've mentioned the van several times. Have you thought about putting signage on it?
Yeah, I haven't. I don't know. Look, to be honest, I like being a bit incognito.
Yeah.
I like people not knowing I'm a gardener. As I'm driving around the city. Yep. I like it's just the anonymity of, I suppose, just being a white van.
Yeah. And I've had no signs on most of my vehicles. It's only in the last few years I've actually gone to the trouble of putting signage on vehicles.
Yeah, yeah.
And now my signage is Aussie Lawn Stars instead of Lawns Online.
Yeah, and I think I'll get round to it. But the van that I've got is fairly new. I only got it the end of last year.
Yeah.
So I'm still sort of working out the kinks with it. And it used to be like an O'Brien's van, so it's got all the old, it's got bits and pieces of the old wrapping that they had over the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
So I've got to sort that out before I, either want to wrap it myself or do anything to it.
So I'm guessing use a heat gun to lift the wrap. I'm not 100%
something
sure.
like that.
But yeah.
I'm just not keen on doing it to the whole car because I think at the dealership they spray painted over the bits they couldn't be fucked to get off.
Yeah.
So it's a good van though. It's I'm happy with it. Low kilometres.
Okay. Well,
for a good price.
That's good. So when you say low kilometres, less than 100?
Just over 100. I bought it with 120.
120,000. Okay, that's good. And I'm just thinking, O'Brien's, would it be a Renault or a Ford?
Toyota Hiace.
Toyota, trusted Toyota.
Always with a Toyota Hiace. Love them.
Yeah. I went with a Renault Traffic, and I did a bit of research before I bought that, but there was several reasons for the Renault Traffic. One is front-wheel drive, so you've got a real low load height.
Yeah. Okay.
The other one was that out of the vans that other people had used for gardening, the Ford Transit was the big one to consider, and the Renault Traffic was better than the Ford Transit, in my opinion.
Yeah. I basically just based my decision on Toyota's reliability.
Yeah.
I had a look at the Renaults and I had a look at the Ford Traffics, and I heard you could get really good mileage on those
Yes.
the new Fords, like almost 1,000 k's on a tank.
Same with the Renault. I was getting just shy of 1,000 k's on a tank. I could get over 1,000, but just shy of 1,000 k's before I'd be like, all right, I'll fill up.
Yeah, like I'm getting 600 on mine, but I just can't get away from Toyota. They're the best.
So
in my eyes.
Mileage terms, I could get around 6 to 7 litres per 100. 6.5 was pretty doable on the Renault, but as you increase load, you increase fuel consumption.
Yeah, I'm doing about 10.7, I think, last time I looked.
Now,
so
are you carrying much load in your van, or you got a ride-on mower in there, or?
No. So I've got a push mower. I've got a petrol hedge trimmer, and then a bunch of electric hedge trimmer gear and multi-tool gear.
Yeah.
And like the heaviest thing in my van would actually be the build of it. It's like what a carpenter might have in there.
So
like
shelving built out for carrying your tools.
Yeah,
Yep.
sort of like that.
Is it metal or wooden shelving?
Yeah, it's wood.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people do that. The wooden shelving is quite easy to make yourself too, so you could change it around if you don't like the way it's set up. It wouldn't be terribly difficult for you to go, all right, I could actually modify that.
Yeah, and I do. Like I muck around with it now and then and change little bits and pieces, but I've sort of got it to the point and position that it works for me and I'm happy with it. Sometimes I just throw stuff in. Sometimes I'm putting it back in the spot that I've assigned to it.
Can we get a photo of the inside of your van to share with this episode? That'd be like, people would love to see it. I know people are always asking to see van setups.
Yeah, I think I've got a few. There's a couple on LMCA if people want to, I don't know, search my name up in the
search up Jared Rout on LMCA, or if you're not on LMCA, just check my Instagram. We'll post a couple of pictures up there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, too easy. So the tools you're using, are you running a Honda mower or have you gone for another type of mower?
Honda, yeah. I've got a Honda Buffalo Pro non-self-propelled 19-inch.
Yep.
It's it's not a self-propelled. It's the smallest, sort of model on the market that is semi, commercial, semi-domestic. I've had it for the duration that I've had my business, and it's never missed a beat. It's had one oil change.
They're the same engine as the 216. Just double checking that, because I had a 196 that we were talking about this, and I was convinced my 196 was almost as heavy as a 216, but it wasn't self-propelled, and you're saying they're pretty light.
Yeah, well, like I bought it because it was light, and that little bit, like the wheelbase with the handles, out at full extension, was just going to fit in the position that I wanted it to in my van. And any bigger wouldn't.
Yeah,
and that's been a drawback, because some jobs I definitely would love to have a self-propelled larger mower, but I don't really need it for the work that I'm doing in the property sizes that I'm doing, to be honest. And with access issues on a lot of these properties, there's no way I'd want to be lugging around a big 216 or 196, or I'm not super familiar with all the different models, because like I do a bit of mowing, but I'd say my business is probably 60% gardening, 40% mowing. So the mower's just there to sort of get the mowing done, and that's it.
Fair enough. And with smaller properties, like you're not doing massive amounts of grass, then the 196 is not going to it's not going to feel like it's slowing you up at the end of the day, that's for sure. No,
definitely not. It's fine. Except for maybe what I was doing with it yesterday. That was a bit fun.
Have you considered getting a battery mower? Because for you, I would think a battery mower would be great.
Yeah, no, I have. It's just when I bought the thing, I wasn't on the whole battery train. I was sort of more in the petrol mindset.
I can see that with you
So
still having a
I just
petrol hedge trimmer.
yeah, well, like that's the thing. That petrol hedge trimmer barely gets used.
Mm.
It's just there for a bit of extra grunt if I need it.
Yeah, if you're doing an
Um,
overgrown hedge where you know you're going to hit a couple of bigger branches.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's got the tooth, like the size between the teeth are a bit wider, so
Yeah.
I use it for jobs that are larger leafed.
I notice now still has 2 battery hedge trimmers that are designed like the 140s. One's designed for the larger gap and slower RPM but higher torque, and the other one's designed smaller gap, higher RPM, and fine leaf buxus type work. And that's in their battery range
Yeah.
now. So yeah.
Yeah, it's something worth checking out. I use Ego tools as my primary hedge trimmer.
Yeah.
I just use a combi tool with a hedge trimmer attachment, and that works great for me.
Have you looked at their dedicated hedge trimmers, the new commercial ones?
Yeah, I have, and I hate them. Like I've had a little go of a couple of them, and just I find the simplicity of their original combi unit is the best. It's just as powerful.
Yeah.
I think.
I like
I don't know
the
the numbers on
dedicated
all of
hedge
them.
trimmers. The commercial quality is there, but there are a couple of idiosyncrasies that can be frustrating, like you say. Like one of the things that I've found is it's hard to get close to a hedge, particularly with the short pole. It's really hard if you're doing a flat hedge. It's hard to get close to it if you've got the battery and the handle up against the hedge.
Yeah, yeah.
The articulating one, obviously you can change the articulation, but usually you want it to be straight if you're trying to do a nice flat edge rather than articulating it on an angle.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so you find the multi-tool works really well. And I'm guessing with the multi-tool, the blade speed's going to be pretty decent.
Yeah, I think it's like something around 3,300. Don't quote me on it. When I do need a bit of extra blade speed, that's when I pull out the Shindaiwa, and it's a bit faster, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. So if you're doing something super fine and you want the high blade speed to get it really sharp, back to the petrol one.
Yeah, got the Shindaiwa out. Yeah, yeah.
There you go. That's interesting. So does that mean most or all of your battery gear is Ego?
Yes, bar the I've got that little Steel GTA 26 chainsaw thing. That's great.
That has been their
thing.
most popular tool since they brought that out.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's outsold everything.
I've actually I recommended it to a client I did just a one-off job for, because they it was the tool I used to do their job. I was just chopping up some some logs, and they were just like, "Oh wow, what is that?" And I told them all about it, and they went out and bought one the next week. And I just said, "Be careful! I've almost chopped my finger off with this thing 100 times at least." Like,
I've talked to Still a couple of times now, and one of the things, and that they're a big proponent of safety with chainsaws. So that's one of the things that comes up is the amount of people that will make the wrong assumption about chainsaws using it with one hand only. And it's like, no, a chainsaw is meant to be a two-handed tool. You want both your hands in a safe place where you're not going to contact that chain. And I've held up my middle finger on my left hand and said, "Hey, check out my chainsaw scar. This is evidence that you don't want to do the wrong thing with that."
Yeah, no, chainsaws are definitely something to be wary of. I've had a couple of close calls with them. I don't really use them too much, other than that GTA 26.
Yeah.
I've got a Husky Rancher that I'll pull out if I really ever have to use it, for something bigger. But yeah, it just sits in the garage most of the time.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So 60% of your work is gardening, 40% mowing, roughly. So that would mean a lot of your time is done hedge trimming, putting mulch in garden beds, hand weeding. Do you do a lot of hand weeding stuff?
I do a lot of hand weeding. I'm not shy of a bit of hand weeding as long as the pay is good.
That's the thing, isn't it? And I think this is a psychological trap for people that are new in business. They think that it's only worth a labour rate, and so the labour rate when I was first getting asked to do some hand weeding jobs, $20, maybe $25 an hour, and so I'm like, can I charge more than $25 an hour for hand weeding? And
fuck yeah, you can.
It meant I come across as really insecure and lacking confidence when I'd quote hand weeding jobs. Instead of being confident, like, I don't want this job. If you want me to do it, it's $100 an hour or whatever. It's like, no. I was like, oh, maybe I can charge you $30 an hour for that. And
yeah, no, like it's something I'm not afraid to do.
Customers feed on your confidence when it comes to these things because, yes, they will question your rates. And I guess this is an interesting topic, right? When you're doing hand weeding, do you just go, I'm going to do hourly rate, or do you quote for the job? And I'm open to both. I think there's value in both. But if you don't have an answer for the customer when they start questioning your rates, then you look like a cowboy, or you look like I was when I was back there quoting $25, $30 an hour for hand weeding. You look like you don't have confidence, you don't know what you're doing, and they don't want to pay anymore because of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely agree. They feed off your confidence, and if you can exude confidence and have a balance of confidence and it's my way and the highway. It's my way or the highway, and friendliness and a willingness can do attitude. That's sort of key. Like,
yeah.
If you can hit both those marks, they love the confidence, and if you're ready to go and raring to go and just want to do everything, they'll pay what you want or what. Yeah.
On the one hand, you want your hand weeding jobs to be worth as much as your highest paying jobs, so that you go, okay, if I'm worth $100 an hour or $150 an hour or $200 an hour, I don't want to do hand weeding for any less than that. On the other hand, you use the hand weeding as your marker rather than the other way around, and you go, well, hand weeding is worth $150 an hour or whatever it is, so therefore I'm not going to do any jobs for any less than that, and that's my benchmark. So I'm bringing this up to ask you, throw you in the deep end. If you're assessing jobs and you're going, all right, hourly rate or quote for the job, do you have a day rate that you're working on, or an hourly rate you're aiming for, or do you try and, obviously what you present to the customer and what you're actually thinking in your head are not going to be the same thing, but at the end of the day, they'll start putting the maths together behind the scenes. So what?
Yeah, like you can see the look on customers' faces when you give them your rate, and you like I do hourlies and I do day rates, I do set rates, I do everything.
Yeah.
So I just sort of feel people out and work out what's best for the situation.
Yeah. So a really good gauge for most people thinking about doing this sort of work, or going, do I match the North Shore Sydney prices? What does a day rate look like for you?
I'd be aiming, if I was at a property for a whole day, I'd be aiming for at least, say, $9.90 GST.
Yep. And do you in your mind, when you're doing 10 jobs in a day, do you go, all right, I need to be hitting $100 per job sort of thing to make sure you're getting the same sort of money, or is that?
Yeah, it is in the back of my mind a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know.
That's all right. I like to give people that sort of insight into what it looks like and how they should think when they're running a business, because people need to learn from someone, and they can learn from you, they can learn from me. If all they do is listen to me, they're not going to learn very much. But if they listen to the almost 300 interviews I've done, they learn a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's very valuable to get those sorts of facts and figures out there. But
yeah, and yeah, things that can be different though, I suppose. Like I've had jobs where I've been there for 2 or 3 hours and made the same amount of money.
Yes.
So it's
And I think that's a factor
wild.
people don't consider very often is they will underquote jobs because they are limiting themselves to that flat rate that they have in the back of their mind. And
That's yeah.
I think the first time I quoted a job where I wasn't limiting myself, I quoted for a whole day for $800. And this is going back 15 years. And so that then became my benchmark. It's like, well, if I can charge $800 for a whole day, why should I take any less?
Yeah, no, that's sort of, that was sort of the same with me.
But that was very much a case of going, you know what, I could easily do a day for $400 or $500, but I'd have some unknowns on that job and I'm not willing to sell myself short and get caught out. So that was how I came up with that amount. And I think that's what you're saying. You can easily do that in 2 or 3 hours sometimes. And that's where you look at a job and you go, I've got to be prepared for it to blow out or something to go wrong or whatever. So we've been talking about hand weeding jobs and sort of quoting around the jobs that are your worst jobs, or maybe they're your favourite jobs by the sounds of it. One of the jobs that comes up when you're doing a lot of gardening is hedge trimming. And by comparison to hand weeding, hedge trimming is considered a bit of a premium job, particularly in the ritzier suburbs where the well-off customers want their hedges to look spectacular. That's probably their street envy compared to in the middle suburbs where the lawn envy is the thing. It's more hedge envy in some of the suburbs. So you do a fair bit of hedging.
I do, yep.
I've seen some quality hedges come from your direction, so I know you can do great work there as well. Do you hit a premium with the pricing on that?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a premium on the hedging, and
Yep.
it took me a little while to figure that out. When I first started, I just figured it was all sort of the same. It's funny listening to that interview with Baccio
Yes.
that you did with him, and I could almost mirror what he said. Like if I was making a bit more than I was making working for someone else, then I was happy at the start, and then I quickly learned that different things are worth different amounts.
Yes. And I guess that's where you start. And I don't know whether he was joking or serious when he said $13 an hour, but I think I started with $25 an hour in mind as a wage rate, like a reasonable wage.
Yeah.
Going, okay, I wouldn't work for less than $25 an hour as a wage. So business expenses on top of that, and $50 an hour is where I landed.
Yeah, that's about where I landed as well, and I thought I was doing pretty good.
Yeah, and that's saying something because I thought that 15 years ago, and you're saying in 3 years ago you thought $50 an hour was pretty good. So we've got to start somewhere.
yeah, we do. But I've sort of worked out where the sweet spot is for me at least. And the work that I do. Sure.
Yeah. So if you're aiming for $9.90 a day as a day rate, do you sit there and go, all right, if I'm going to hold a hedge trimmer all day, it's got to be a bit more?
Absolutely. I won't do a hedging job on a day rate.
Fair enough.
Any hedges are just set rates unless I'm working through a whole garden and it's easy sort of do a little bit at a time, or do this, do that, do a bit of ADHD type gardening.
Yeah, I like those jobs.
Yeah, me too.
If you can sit there and go, you know what, the hedge trimming might be a premium, but it's only a part of this garden, and therefore I'm not quoting for the hedge, I'm quoting for the whole job.
Yeah, that's it. So I do a bit of both. I do just some single premium hedges, and then I do gardens with hedges, lawns, and whatnot, and it's all sort of worked into it. But I definitely I try and chase the creamier hedge jobs.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm guessing that means in your area you are seeing the hedges with the fine leaf. You got some pretty sharp hedges.
Yeah, so there's a lot of conifers. We've got a lot of buxus. Lots of viburnum around us too.
Yeah.
I like viburnum. I like the smell of it. Lots of people don't. It smells funny to me.
Nice.
Yeah, I like viburnum's not fine stuff like you said, but I'm just sort of, what's around me.
Yeah. Yeah, so Mossman area and Neutral Bay, they're fairly leafy suburbs, which means the plants that grow there often have a fair bit of shade.
Yeah. So I'm always dealing with different, almost sub climates within people's properties. Some people's properties are deserts, and some people's properties have these little microbiomes in it where it's super dark and dank, and you've got to give it a completely different approach to one side of the property than the other side of the property.
So yeah,
I run into a few issues with irrigation and trouble, being able to get the right amount of water to, one part of the property and, not use as much on the other part simply because of the plants that are planted there, and the irrigation system just runs the whole way through. So it's sort of hard to manage sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of your properties would be irrigated too, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and a lot of them, I don't work on a lot of super high-end new builds.
Yeah.
I work for people who have money, but I work for people who have lived in their property for 10, 15 years and they haven't renovated or whatever.
It sounds
so these irrigation systems are often a bit broken, a bit not functioning the best they could. And I'm no irrigation expert. I'll do a bit of cutting and pasting and trying to work out what things are doing the best I can. But yeah,
it sounds like you could upsell them on new irrigation systems to make sure they get in the modern touch with rain sensors and multiple nodes, so you can change between those rainforest areas and the dry exposed areas. And
for sure, yeah. I was working with a fair amount of those systems when I was at Jungify, which was really interesting because like you just do it all off your phone. I'd be setting different and remotely as well. Like I would see that the weather is doing a certain thing in this area, and I turn off the irrigation because we're not going to need rain for this outdoor wall that we've got for the next week. So I'm just sitting at home. I'll turn off the irrigation that night.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of advantages with the more modern irrigation systems, but trying to convince a homeowner to spend, I'm guessing if you're replacing an irrigation system, if you could keep the pipes in the ground, it wouldn't be too expensive. But if you got to replace the whole lot, that gets pretty expensive.
Yeah, definitely. It's not something I'd want to have to pursue.
But yeah, again, like you're saying, like you're happy to do some sprinkler repairs or a couple of modifications, but not the major stuff.
Yeah, I'll leave that up. Leave that to a professional.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting though, because most of your customers have got irrigation there, but they're not working well all the time.
Yeah, sort of. Like it's not like they're not working well. They're just older systems that aren't remotely accessible. I'm sitting there dialing in your programs and stuff on the actual little Galcon controller and stuff, and just muck around.
Fair enough. Yeah, would be a lot of muck around. Yeah, okay. So with your customers, you're doing a mix of hedge trimming, hand weeding. Sounds like it's a bit of balance though, because you're saying there's a lot of hand weeding, but it sounds like there's also a lot of hedge trimming.
Yeah, definitely. And like that's good balance for your body, I think. If you're always, on top of a ladder with a hedger above your head and if you can sort of reverse those impacts on your body by doing something else,
Yep.
I find it's good. Yeah.
You got your different gardening jobs there. You got balance between different types of things you do. One of the things I was thinking is this time of year, your weeds are slowed down, your hedges have slowed down, and you're probably going to tackle some overgrown jobs. Sounds like you don't do a lot of that though. So you're probably going to be starting to bring in mulch and mulch the garden beds. You got any rose pruning that happens at the moment? Just thinking other guys are doing that.
I don't actually have too many properties with like a fair amount of roses. I've got a couple here and there that I've got to they'll be getting done soon, but nothing too substantial. I'll be getting into a bit of pressure washing. I save that for this time of year for the regular clients that will always need it.
Yep.
So do a bit of pressure washing. I don't find I'm like sort of super less busy in winter. I like to get into the larger garden cleanups and a bit more messy stuff because you've got the time and the energy and you're not bashed by the heat all day.
Yes, you can set your own pace a bit easier because you're not under the pump.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
a couple of questions there. So with the pressure cleaning, have you gone for like your little not battery power, but your 240 volt Karcher pressure cleaner, or are you going for a big 13 horsepower Honda? Or
no, so I just use like you said, 240 volt. None of my jobs are really ever going to be big enough that I really need that. Like, it is a bit of an extra muck around having to plug in and there's just extra wires and cords hanging around everywhere. But
you can get a pretty
for
strong
what
240 volt pressure cleaner. You can get pretty decent rating out of them. I went from a decent quality 240 volt pressure cleaner up to the 13 horsepower Honda pressure cleaner, and it's night and day difference the amount of water that goes through that thing. So if you
it's about water. Like I've heard it's more about the amount of water that they can push out, not the pressure. So,
well, obviously it needs the pressure as well, but they start measuring in volume rather than pressure more so when you're talking that you go up from 13 horsepower to 27, 30 horsepower machines, and the volume goes up again. But the speed at which you can clean a path with a bigger machine is huge.
Yeah, I'll just do my washing jobs on an hourly rate.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so you get a few of them through this time of year, going the next 3-4 months. When you're putting mulch in garden beds, do you have a preference on do you go for the red wood chip?
Oh yeah, I love the red wood chip.
Everyone hates that.
Nah, I like either hardwood sort of wood chip or that hort bark. It is red. I don't know if it's dyed red or not, but it's like a like pine bark mix of something.
Okay. Yeah.
It's good. It's good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, I like the hardwood chip if you want it to last forever, but you just got to be careful about the acidity leaching from that into your soil.
Yeah.
And that's where the pine bark is good because it's less acid, so it's nicer to work with.
And it's the pine bark sort of got a softer look to it as well. It's not and it doesn't lose its colour as quickly.
That's right. Hardwood chip always loses its colour within a couple of months.
Yeah.
So that's where it's
good for suppressing weeds, though.
That's where it's worth doing a top up with the hardwood if you can. Just go in and top it up. Just put a little bit down at a time, so it's only just keeping it looking fresh.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I was listening to BJ's show where he was interviewing Andy from Leaf by Leaf, and Andy was talking about using a mulch mix that is already very broken down, so the lifespan of the mulch mix is much shorter, but it looks really nice. So it's got a really dark, nice finish to it, and it's you got to do it like 4 times a year, 5 times a year, sort of thing.
What's that called? I'm not sure I've heard of it.
He did mention it. I'm going to say anybody wants to find out, they're going to have to look up BJ's podcast and go and listen to it. It's all of about 2.5, 3 hours worth of listening, but it's in there.
Yeah, well, I'm yet to get to it. I was listening to it today and yesterday. I haven't heard that part yet, so
Yep.
I'll be going and listening to that myself.
Just a warning, if you
to get that info.
If you're used to listening to my podcast and you go and listen to BJ's podcast, Into the Green, I think it's called, a little bit of a language warning.
Am I not supposed to be swearing?
It's all good. Don't stress about it. I can bleep it out if people actually notice it. But BJ's show is no holds. Everything goes. And the worse the stories, the more he likes them. But all good. So that was an interesting one, because that was, and I think the Americans have gone down that path as well, of using a much darker mulch that is already well composted, so it means it's not going to have the protective barrier as long.
Yeah.
Which is a good upsell. You can do more applications.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Okay.
But it's healthier for your soil too.
You get that direct benefit sort of straight away, as opposed to having to wait for it to break into it.
Yeah, well, other than pine bark, most of the wood chips that are got to break down, as they break down, they're leaching acid into your soil, which is sort of retarding your soil quality a bit. It takes a while before it gets back to balance. I think sugarcane mulch is the other one that's quite good, like pine bark. But it's so light and fluffy that it's not what everyone wants.
Struggle to find anybody that wants to put it on their garden, yeah.
No, definitely not. It has its place. But yeah.
Oh, for a good veggie patch, it's great.
Yeah, that's probably the one place that's really good. Yeah, so you prefer the hardwood chip and a couple of options you mentioned.
Yeah, I like the look of those. And yeah, mulch for me, especially when I'm doing a bond cleanup or a before sale sort of thing, it's all about looks. So it mulch ties everything together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know. I've done quite a few cleanups like that as well, and it really is about making sure the whole yard looks nice. So you start thinking about what the real estate agent wants to present for a new tenant coming through. And in my area, that means they want the cleanup done the week that they're showing tenants.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty. I'd say that's pretty much universal for real estate agents to be asking that.
Which sometimes means it can be a couple of months in between grass cutting, and the grass can be awful. And it's like you need to get the grass cut regularly while you're waiting, not just have it done right before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, well. So, Jared, I think we've covered most of the topics I wanted to cover with you.
Okay.
Is there anything that I've missed that is worthwhile for us to talk about?
Not that I can think of. Like, I have a quick look over our little pointers here.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to just give a quick shout out. I'm not paid for any of this, but like,
No.
I use, like, this is the accounting sort of side of things. I use Henry.
Oh yeah.
For my accounting. I do everything on my phone.
Yep.
And invoices, accounting, tax, all that sort of thing. It's great for a solo operator. Maybe not for someone that's got employees on the books and that's a bit bigger than me. But for someone starting out, I'd give Henry a go.
So HNRY is how it's spelled.
Yes.
And it is made for solo people, sole traders, not for companies. You can't use it if you've got a company, proprietary, limited, family trust, any of those things. It is made for sole traders and for solo operators. But if I understand correctly, that allows you within the app to allocate funds to tax, to equipment,
Yes.
all your overheads, all those sorts of things.
I don't have to worry about any of that, like, you know, putting tax aside and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Henry does it for me.
Yep.
I can put money into my superannuation from every single job. I can put money into any other account that I want to have it into from any other job. So if I want to pay myself wages, you know, you can set what rate you want to be paid out of every single job. It's really good. Yeah. I bought a paper invoice book when I first started and wrote 2 or 3 invoices out on that and just thought, oh, this can't be what everybody else is doing. And there's something to be said about algorithms and stuff, because that just must have showed up on my Facebook feed. I clicked it and downloaded it and thought, wow, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah, I've had several people talk to me about Henry, and for me it doesn't work, and I'm not interested in it for my own purposes, but for the listeners' sake, yeah, I believe it's a really good option, particularly where you're at that startup stage and you're trying to work out what you're doing in business and if you actually want to stay in business or not. I think that's where it really provides a lot of benefit. Yeah,
absolutely. It's really flexible for a sole trader, and it gives you all the tools you need, I suppose. Like, you know, you're not just worrying about one aspect of invoicing or quoting or tax or whatever. It's just all sorted.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I think we sort of covered everything.
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
Yeah, location, equipment, customers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm happy to call it a day then. And you know, thanks for coming on. It was good to talk to you. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was insightful, and I think a lot of people will really gel with what you're doing in business, and it will be similar to what they're doing. So it's good insights for them.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.